how much money is it going to take for Trump to compete against Hillary Clinton in the general election? Joining us right now, former Rubio fundraiser, George Seay. George, good to see you. Can you put a number on this for us?
Thanks, Trish. Good to be here. It's going to be a multi-billion-dollar election, combining both sides of the electorate on the Democrat and Republican side. But I'll tell you, I have a strong opinion that Trump's earned media and the way he conducts himself in the election from here on out and Clinton's email scandal are going to be the key determinants on who wins the election.
How is his ability to raise money? I mean, he said all along, you know, I don't need any money, I don't need anybody's help. That's going to obviously have to change. Where's he going to get the money from?
Well, he says he's worth $10 billion, so I look forward to him writing another very large check. He says he can self-fund. He will attempt to raise money from the rest of the country. I think he'll have some success. I think there's always people on the conservative side who are going to back the nominee no matter what and raise money for him, but he's burned a lot of bridges, so he's got to work really hard with the bridges that are still intact.
George Seay, Lou Dobbs, good to see you.
Hi, Lou.
And this is going to be an interesting exercise. I talked with a couple of the donor class today, as a matter of fact, and they're talking very positively and optimistically. Let me rephrase it, cautiously optimistic about fundraising. Is there a number that you think he has to have, whether it comes from his pocket or the pockets of lots of other folks?
No, sir, I don't. I think that he will have hundreds of millions of dollars at a bare minimum, and I think Sheldon Adelson has already said he's going to fund a huge amount of money to Trump.
100 million.
But I'll reiterate, I think the American people have gotten smart about this stuff. I don't think they pay a whole lot of attention to paid political ads that attack the other opponent, mostly unfairly, sometimes fairly. I think it's the earned media that really counts. And I think Hillary's email scandal is going to be a big factor going forward.
George,
I think at a minimum, it's clear she should be indicted.
When you look at what happened with Jeb Bush, all the money that he spent, I guess it was over $100 million in the final count, and clearly did him no good at all. In fact, the more money he spent, the lower his polling went. The fact that Hillary has so much, it must not be the advantage that it used to be to have a financial advantage. And I'm just wondering if perhaps Donald Trump can continue to do it on the cheap.
It's a great irony, isn't it? You hear a lot of outcry among the American people about the corrupting influence of money in politics. But the practical side of it is I don't think it has such a big impact anymore. I think people tone it out and they look at the candidates themselves and how they conduct themselves. And I would go back to President George H.W. Bush's administration. I worked for Secretary Eagleburger in the State Department. I know how serious national security information is and how serious the security of it is. And all of us who've been there and have been told we would be summarily dismissed if we in any way violated national security information in our jobs are deeply offended at what Hillary did with her private server. And I think that issue is going to continue to come out. I really do.
What about,
so I don't think if Trump raises $500 million versus $800 million or something like that, I don't think that's outcome determinative at all. I think the way he conducts himself and the email scandal are going to be the big factors going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, we were talking during the break that the superest delegate of all may be the FBI. What about some other billionaires on the conservative side? What about the Koch brothers? What would it take for them to bankroll the Trump campaign?
Well, I think that they will spend hundreds of millions of dollars in every state where there's a key battleground state, especially in those Senate elections. And those dollars will definitely impact and help Donald Trump. I know Foster Freeze, he's a longtime friend who's on on your network frequently, is all in for Trump. So I think a lot of the donor class will be heavily behind him, and I don't think that'll really be a problem. I think it'll come again to what his comments look like, how he woos the American people that are uncertain about him and offended by a lot of his comments, and whether he can look presidential the next 5 months.
You know, and George, you make such a good point. I mean, you know, things have really changed, and he's been that agent of change in the sense that he's transformed how campaigns are run. Earned media really matters, and you know, people listen to it more when someone's answering a question from a reporter as opposed to the campaign ad.
Hillary Clinton hasn't had a press conference since December. You know, this is not someone who's been forthright and open and transparent with the press. And I think if you're talking about earned media, and if that's the best way to get to the American voter, she is lacking.
Although Kennedy, she did just do, what, 10 minutes the other day, but the questions felt completely pre-sorted, right?
Yeah.
It was like, how do you feel about being the first female candidate?
Of course,
et cetera?
yeah. No, she's one of the most controlling candidates and will be one of the most controlling presidents.
George?
And if my friend Marco Rubio, who's an outstanding debater, and Ted Cruz, who's an accomplished debater, couldn't handle Trump, how's Hillary going to handle him?
Yeah.
She's not practiced and she's not battle tested, and she's so scripted. She's going to really struggle with him in debates.
George, you're talking about the email scandal, and rightly so. But there's the potential of a public corruption case around the Clinton Global Initiative that has a lot of people, including the inspectors, the FBI investigators, obviously concerned enough to be taking a look at that. How big do you think that could be potentially for her?
Lou, it's a travesty, and anyone who cares about charity in this country, and I'm one of them, likes charities that run lean and mean and give most of their money away to the causes. And the money they spend within the Clinton Global Initiative is scandalous all by itself.
Yep.
I'm skeptical that that will come out enough before the election to make a significant impact.
Yeah.
I think the email server scandal is much more substantive, and I hope Loretta Lynch has got the tenacity and the courage to prosecute that situation if the FBI comes down and recommends an indictment.
Well, George, good to see you. Thank you for joining us here tonight.
Great to see you all. Thanks for having me on.
All right.